The real issue is to understand how now the Iranian Islamic Republic try to play a role on the international arena. I think first we have to understand something very obvious, that's to say power politics is over. And so the main question for the rising powers and for the small states or weak states is to understand how they can play a role on the international arena. And the Iranian Republic plays a very specific and new role on the international arena, as it is playing what I would call the diplomacy of protest. That's to say, for existing, I have to protest, as I know that I can't have any chance to be heard through classical power politics, because my power is not high enough for being credible on the international arena. And what we have first to pay attention to is that the more we are mobilizing against Iran by using force, the more we are fueling this diplomacy of protest. And so the right way is very difficult to find for the international community and these international institutions. The right way is to make pressure on Iran without using this unbalanced force, which would be a pretext for fueling and reinforcing and enhancing the diplomacy of protest. We have now a hierarchical world in which the nuclear club is constituting the business class, the first class, the aristocracy in our current world. And so we can imagine that more and more mid-powers will try to access this club in order to be respected. And this is particularly true of the isolated rising powers like Iran, which have no means for existing but participating in the oligarchy, in the world oligarchy. It was clear during the Bush presidency, as neoconservatism had a very clear line in foreign policy. Neoconservatism was pleading for an exceptional role of the US in the world as educating and shaping the world for achieving the American model of democracy and human rights. Now this model is over, but that's strange to observe that probably President Obama has not defined a new model. He is probably in a pragmatic transition. And more we can find something like a resurgence of a debate which didn't exist these previous decades. And I will stress on these new researches pointing that probably the polarized moment of the world is now over, and which is questioning the role of the leader and leadership. That's to say, is leadership meaningful in a non-polarized world? I think that we have to be cautious, because, of course, we can find many cultural and religious emblems in the current conflict that we observed in the world, around the world. But generally, the real reason of this conflict, the real factor, the real cause of this conflict is not to be found among the cultural features or among the religious actions and mobilizations. Those symbols are emblems of a fighting which is rooted more inside the society than in its symbol. You know, with globalization, we are facing a very strong challenge that I would call the international social integration. When the international social integration is limited, is contained, is impeded, we have to face very strong, painful and tragic conflicts. The new international conflicts by now are more and more fueled by social inequality, by the lack of international social integration, than by the competition of states and even competition of cultures. Competition of cultures and of religions are used by the conflictual actors for legitimizing and mobilizing, but not as the real first cause of the conflict.